Hi, and welcome to another episode of Sit and Spin with me, your host, Joe. And as promised last week, tonight on the show, yet another fine vinyl reissue from yet another of my favorite power pop bands to come out of the 90s, and that would be Superdrag and their sophomore effort, Headtrip In Every Key, now out on vinyl for the first time. Of course, Superdrag were formed in Knoxville, Tennessee in the early 1990s. They kind of lean more to the power side of power pop for the most part, and they were comprised of John Davis on lead vocals and guitar, Brandon Fisher on lead guitar, Tom Pappas on bass, and Don Coffey Jr. on drums. When the band first started out as The Used, short for The Used to Be, not to be confused with that other band, The Used, that came later, they kind of did a little bit of musical chairs. Davis was originally the band's drummer, Tom Pappas was the second guitarist and handled some of the vocals, but when Don Coffey Jr. came into the scene as the new drummer, everybody switched around. Davis went on to vocals and guitar, Pappas switched to bass, and the band that we've come to know and love as Superdrag was formed. They released a series of independent singles and an EP, which got them signed to Elektra Records, who released their debut album, Regretfully Yours, back in 1996. That album featured the single Sucked Out, which was a minor hit, as well as great tunes like Destination Ursa Major, and N.A. Kicker, and Slot Machine, and Phaser, and it was just a fantastic record, especially for a debut album. And the band were fantastic guys, too. I actually had the chance to see them, meet them on several occasions, thank you, Jim Cortez, including on tour, what would become the record we're going to talk about now. But, you know, even though the record did okay, didn't do great, but it did well enough that Elektra Records agreed to back them financially for a follow-up album, but on the condition that they write more songs along the lines of Sucked Out to have more hit singles. The band, however, saw things a little differently. Feeling like they were probably never going to get the kind of radio play that Elektra wanted, they went into the studio also thinking that, you know, we're never going to get the chance to make a record like this again with this kind of backing. So they went into the studio with the late producer Jerry Finn, who the reissue of this album is dedicated to, and they set about making the most epic power pop masterpiece that they could, using out-of-the-ordinary exotic instrumentation like sitar and mellotron and theremin and strings and orchestration, and just made a grand Beatlesque scale of a record, which turned out to be Headtrip In Every Key. Originally released in 1998, one of my favorite records to come out that year, still one of my favorite records ever, and now reissued on vinyl for the first time via Side One Dummy Records, former home of Gaslight Anthem, who also released the band's debut Regretfully Yours on vinyl last year. And this new vinyl release is really sweet. Comes in a nice gatefold package, double record set, and just really, really cool too. It sounds fantastic, and look, like the inner label's really cool. It looks like an old school tape machine records. It looks awesome spinning on the turntable. And not only that, but then you get to the actual vinyl itself, and check it out. Super sweet, translucent clear vinyl, and here's a clue for you kids. All vinyl starts out this color. Even black records are colored vinyl. But translucent vinyl, something about it, because it's the original form, it actually sounds a little bit better than even black vinyl, though some people tell you black vinyl sounds better. That's neither here nor there. But Headtrip In Every Key, while it may not have turned out to be the collection of radio-ready pop hits that Elektra was looking for, still is an awesome collection of power pop and rock tunes. The song you're hearing right now, it's almost done. It's called I'm Expanding My Mind. It's probably one of my favorite Superdrag tunes ever. It just builds layers upon layers and just features some fantastic lyrics. Do the Vampire is a great rock tune. It was the only single released off the album. I also like the Rockin' Hellbent. Sold You an Alibi is fantastic. Amphetamine's a great tune. Bankrupt Vibration, which builds upon Beatles' basics into a Cheap Trick-like crescendo at the end. The melancholy Antichrist, which has a cool misspelled of the name Antichrist with the girl's name and at the beginning, really cool. She is a Holy Grail, has great psychedelic overtones. The pure pop bliss of Pine Away, and the album ends on the epic The Art of Dying. But it's just such a fantastic album in every way. Definitely something, if you've never heard it, well worth seeking out and finding. But Superdrag's second record, Headtrip In Every Key, now out on vinyl. Side One Dummy also did release a companion piece of sorts to this album. It's a record called Jokers with Tracers, and it's a collection of demos and rarities that the band had never issued on vinyl before. I already own most of the stuff on previous other Superdrag releases on CD and stuff, so I didn't necessarily feel the need to pick it up, but knowing me, I'll probably get it eventually before it goes out of print because it's a very limited run. But definitely, you know, pick this album up if you haven't had a chance to ever hear it before. And Superdrag may be no more. They broke up back in 2003. They did reunite in the late 2000s, but put out one more record, but they just decided that Superdrag was kind of done. John Davis and Brandon Fisher, however, have formed a new band called the Lees of Memory with former Epic Ditch drummer Nick Slack, and that record is also going to be coming out on Side One Dummy later this month or early October, and when I get that record, you'll probably get a good review of that too. But that is all I've got for you on the show this week. Power pop masterpiece from Superdrag, Headtrip In Every Key. Go out and get it. Hopefully you're checking out my, speaking of vinyl, hopefully you're checking out my good friend Scott over at the Righteous Vinyl page, as well as the Riff of the Day guys. And next week, hopefully you're going to have some new music for you. Planning to do one from a guy who hasn't had a record out in about 4 or 5 years. And he's kind of all over the place with his releases. But what I've heard of this new one sounds great, and I'm really excited about the involvement of Mike Viola from the band Candy Butchers, who's another guy I really like. He's co-written and co-produced a lot of the album and plays in the band on this record, so I'm really excited to hear the rest of it. Who am I talking about? You'll have to tune in next week to find out, but if we don't get to that one, something else new for you. And next time, you know, till then, we'll see you then, next time on Sit and Spin.